Running a brokerage is hard work, so whether you're focused on building your own sales pipeline, hiring the best agents, leveling up your team's production, or protecting the culture you've built, you're in the right place. Real estate brings the challenges, and we share the solution. Welcome to the show dedicated to broker entrepreneurs. Welcome to the Brokerpreneur Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Brokerpreneur Podcast. I'm Dr. Ben Spears, the Doctor of Flow. As usual, I'm here with the big guy himself, Matt Vine. What's up, man?
Man, just living the dream, just like per use. Just enjoying the weather. It's actually, we've got some rain. We love talking about the weather, by the way. We'll get to Michael in just a second and ask him about the weather, but it's like we're 65-year-old, 70, 80-year-old men talking about the weather, drinking coffee in the afternoon. But we love talking about the weather because it hasn't been quite as hot. We had a couple of days that were just scorching, and then we had a bunch of rain come in, and it cooled things off. So I'm loving it. How can you argue with that?
Yeah. It was one of those things where it was hot. It was coming down hot, but it was coming back up hot. It's like you just couldn't escape it.
That's right.
I'm super excited about our guest. Let's get him on here so we can see what the weather's like back in my neck of the woods.
Absolutely. Back in the holler.
It's exactly right. We have Michael DeLon, who is the founder of Paperback Expert. How's it going, Michael?
It's going phenomenal today, guys. Rain has gone past here too, so I'm excited to be here. It's going to be a great conversation.
Good.
I'm super pumped. If you guys can't tell by the way he talks like me, so that's cool. And but if you want to hear me talk even more, and you want to show up on Friday to our free mastermind that we do for real estate brokers, it's called the Brokerpreneur Not So Secret Society. Go to the links in the description below. Click on that one. Register. It's absolutely free. It's 12 to 1 every single Friday. We just talk about growing real estate brokerages, and we'd love to meet you and break bread and share stories there. So, Michael, we love getting the backstory of all of our guests. And before we were talking, we were pre-framing. Like, go back as far as you'd like. I'm just going to ask you, right? Like, share from the time you turned 1 until now. Share your backstory and tell us how you got into Paperback Expert.
Yeah, from 1 to about 25, there was nothing really big happening there, right? Honestly, biggest event in my life up to I was 20 is on June 29th, 1987, my dad was killed in a motorcycle accident. That was a big transitioning point for me. Number one, brought me to faith in Christ, but really gave me a different perspective on death and dying. But I think it set me up for a trajectory of writing, which we'll get into, because that day he wrote me a note before he took his ride. And that note was on the kitchen table when I walked home that night. That note hangs in my closet right now. And if my house burns down, that's the one thing I'm getting. So that note, I write letters to my family on birthdays, anniversary things. I'm a big writer, and I think that plays into what I do today, okay? So that's the big event between 0 and 21. Then I met my wife. So let me tell you the story of how I got to do what I'm doing, okay? This is really where it gets juicy. So my wife and I, we got married in 1990. And Jill and I are complete opposites. So the first 5 years of our marriage are like this. Okay. She and I just fought because we didn't know any better. We both grew up in church, but nobody ever taught us how to be married. Right. So after 5 years of conflict, we went to a family life weekend to remember marriage conference. And in that weekend, they unveiled for us God's blueprints for marriage. I didn't know he had any blueprints. So we grabbed his blueprints, we started applying them to our marriage, and through the 90s, our marriage got better. We had 2 biological sons during that time period, and I was working in Christian radio, marketing and sales, trying to get you and real estate brokers to buy radio advertising. Right. That's where I learned to do marketing for small business owners. I learned how marketing works, okay? So at the end of the 90s, God led us out of Christian radio into a startup.com, back when Amazon was just getting started. Remember William Shatner on the radio, world's largest bookstore? Right. I was selling websites and books and banner ads to car dealers and things. That company was ahead of its time, which means it went bankrupt. So 2 years later, I'm standing in my living room going, God, what am I supposed to do now? And he says, I want you, Michael, in a ministry to marriages. I want you at Family Life, that ministry that changed our marriage. So I said, great. Raised our support for 2 years, moved from Indiana down to Little Rock, Arkansas, which is the world headquarters for Family Life. Thought I hit nirvana. Grew in that ministry, climbed the corporate ladder, was on the leadership team serving. And then they started going through these corporate reorganizations. The third reorganizational chart got rolled out, and my name's no longer on the leadership team. So they start shuffling me around the ministry to do different things. And that began a 2-year, what I call a prison term, because I was stuck in a job I hated at a ministry I loved. Right. So after 2 years, I prayed. I talked to my wife. I said, I got to get out of this place. It's killing me. God said, what do you want to do? I said, I want to go help small business owners with marketing because they hate it and I love it. And he said, okay, then go. So on January 1st of 2013, I escaped from prison.
Nice.
Left the ministry, started a marketing consulting firm. I'd come out and talk to you guys, and I'd say, you know what, I can help you grow your business. And you would say, okay, and we would talk, and we'd have a great time. And at the end of that conversation, Dr. Ben, you look at me and say, Michael, it sounds great. Tell me, what have you been doing for the last few years? Who else have you helped? And I say, help build marriages and families at Family Life. And you say, Michael, that's honorable. Way to go. Oh, look at the time. I've got another meeting coming up. Let's reschedule. And you usher me right out the door. And I wasn't getting any clients.
Right.
And I knew I had to fix that. So I said, okay. I went to my church, paced the hallways on the second floor, and I cried out to God. I said, God, how do I help Dr. Ben? Because I know I can. And God gave me the idea to take all of my marketing ideas and strategies and put them in a book. And so I did. I wrote my first book on marketing back in 2013. And then, Dr. Ben, I'd call you. I'd set an appointment. I'd mail a copy of my book to you. A week later, walk into your office. There it was. My book was on your desk, dog-eared, highlighted, underlined. You'd read my book. And in that meeting, Dr. Ben, you'd say, Michael, in your book, you said, how do you help me do that?
Right.
And you'd hire me. I started gaining clients, and I thought, wow, this is really cool. Why don't business owners do this? And so I went back to my church. I built a spreadsheet listed every single step it took me to create my book, built a system and a process that eliminates all the hurdles for business owners, and created a company where today we help real estate brokers, agents create a book without writing a word. And then I teach them how to use their book in their marketing to gain clients, to get referrals, and grow their business. Whew. That's what I do. That's the story. You can take it from there.
I so absolutely love it, and more importantly, I love the energy. And you are a hell of a storyteller. I told you that last time we talked. You're so engaging. I think that's absolutely incredible. So you and I talked, right? And I mentioned before somebody that I knew wrote a book. I wrote the foreword for it, and it was really good for them from a credibility standpoint. And it allowed them to have conversations with people before they had conversations with people. And so part of what we tell our brokers to do is there's a lot of great books out there, and especially on business and how business and life collide and how to keep it from colliding, and instead how they can work together. And so what we urge our brokers to do a lot of the time is to send a book out and ask the people. There's a whole process to it. We won't get into that right now, but ask the people about the book because it helps the conversation go forward. What you're talking about 10x is that, 20x is that easily. And there's so many brokers with so many stories to tell. And so I love the idea of what you're talking about and how it could really impact them. Now, you've helped some people. You've helped a bunch of people, but there's some people that you've written books for that have had a lot of success. Tell us a little bit about a few of those people. Were they natural writers, right? How did they get the story? And then what kind of results? How did it help them with their business?
Yeah, great questions. Yeah, most of my clients aren't writers. They're not natural writers. Most of them don't like to write. And that's the beautiful thing is, as business owners, we're communicators. We speak and talk all day long. And that's what I'm looking for, is somebody who doesn't want to write their book. I tell people, never write a book. You should always speak to write your book. So that's why we have writers who guide you through a process. Meg Williams is one of our clients. She's a realtor in Memphis, Tennessee. And she came to us and we wrote her book with her. This was a number of years ago. And she still uses it today. And what she does, because Meg's pretty smart, right? Before she goes out on a listing appointment, she mails a copy out to, when she sets the appointment, she'll mail a copy out to that seller and gives them 2 or 3 or 4 days just to read her book. Because the book is about real estate and what she does and her process, but it's a lot about Meg and
Right.
who she is. And one of my marketing strategies and philosophies is people buy who you are more than what you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
great.
dare I say, real estate is a commodity. Y'all are the same.
Right.
You're not really, but
Yeah, I get it.
I just sold a home, dude. I had
Right.
to find a realtor. And if I would have had a realtor in Little Rock, Arkansas, give me a copy of their book, I assure you they would have gotten my business.
Right.
So it's about telling your story. So Meg has story after story of how she's gained clients because of just what she said. She preconditions them to hire her because it's not a first appointment. By the time she meets with them, it's third or fourth appointment in their mind because they like her.
Yep.
They've heard her process. Phil Herman, he's Dayton, Ohio's #1 agent, has been for 20, 30 years. And he wrote a book with us. And he does exactly the same thing. He's learned when he gets a prospect, give him a copy of their book. And that's a big competitive market. And so a lot of times they're looking at 3 or 4 different agents and he's out talking with them. and he just pulls a copy of his book and hands it to them. And when so many times they'll say, "You wrote a book on this?"
Yeah.
And that changes how he is perceived in their
Absolutely.
mind. And that's where marketing happens, is in the mind of your audience. And so it just happens over and over. The other great place, and stop me if I go too much, but
No, we love it.
people are researching you, right?
Mhm.
And they're on Google, they're on LinkedIn, they're on Facebook, all researching. When they hit your website, if your website looks like and is written like every other realtor,
Right.
there's no reason to choose you. But how about it's too soon, in my opinion, on your website. Usually in the dead center of a website is that call to action that says, schedule a call with me.
Mhm.
It's too soon. I'm not ready to yet. I want to take that next step to get to know you. How about download a free copy of my book? Learn who I am and how I help you sell your house in the shortest amount of time for the highest amount of money with the least amount of problems. Now,
Yep.
who's not opting in for that, right? And now they're in your funnel. Do something different and
Love it.
give people an opportunity to really get to know you. So I'll be quiet for a bit.
Yeah, no, so I absolutely love that. And so there's a couple of key things that you said that I want to make sure that I tie into some other things that our brokers are probably hearing a lot from a lot of different places. One, Oren Claff, I'm not sure if you know who Oren Claff is, right? So he talks about pitches. Okay. And I'm not necessarily a huge fan of having a pitch that's ready for everybody and all of that. However, he does make some really good points on certain parts of the conversation that he has. And one of those is owning the frame. And what he means by owning the frame is, what is the structure of the conversation? What is the power dynamic? Who has the leverage? Who has the authority? Who is the expert in the situation? Man, a book is just such a great way of doing that. And
It totally, so in our culture, in our society, experts have books.
Mhm.
It just is. And if you're going against another agent, they're going to have fancy brochures and pretty this and pretty that and those magnet calendar things.
Right.
You hand them a copy of your book. It's sacrilegious in our culture to throw a book away. So it's
Right.
going to stay with them, but it does something mentally for them to engage and to go, this person's different. And that's what you're looking for. That gives you that edge to frame that conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you know how I do, Matt, right? I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, okay, I'm a real estate broker and I'm listening to this and I'm like, okay, I'm intrigued. Then I'm like, okay, well, is Michael a licensed real estate broker? I'm like, how's Michael going to write a book for me without me having to write anything? I'm really intrigued on the process. Can you tell us if I'm a real estate broker? And I'm like, okay, this guy's just got out of prison. I'm just I want to use that as
You're
our
born orange today.
thumbnail's going to be you in an orange jumpsuit. But tell us, how does this even work?
Great story. Because I don't write the book, you do. Okay, you do it not through writing, but through speaking. So here's the process. First 30 days, you work with me and we discover your message. What is the story that you're not telling? What's unique about you? Okay, and I've got a couple stories I can share with you in a minute, but once we get that lined up, so now we know the title and theme of your book, but it's coming out of your background.
Mhm.
Then we bring one of our writers to the table, one of our professional writers. I've got about a dozen of them who work with me. And through a series of Zoom interviews like this, the writer helps you understand our process, and they build the outline of your book with you just by asking you questions. Okay.
Hey, Dr. Ben here. I hope you're enjoying this episode. If sometimes you feel overloaded or alone when it comes to building your brokerage, I want you to know that we are here for you. There's so much support available to agents, but hardly any dedicated to brokers. I want to personally invite you to schedule a complimentary strategy call where Matt will help you build a 3-step profitability plan that will immediately produce results. This is not a sales pitch. There's no obligation. Simply click the link in the description below. Now let's get back to the show.
The book is, dude, dare I say, it's not rocket science. It's what you talk about all day, every day to all of your prospects and clients and referral partners. And so the writer's asking you questions. We build the outline, chapter by chapter, bullet points, stories of how you've helped people, maybe a unique process you may have. Once we have the outline built, then we walk you through our speak to write process. And the writer is sitting there going, okay, chapter 1. Let me ask you, Ben, what's the number one most important thing for a seller to know as they get ready to list their house for sale? And then we shut up and you just start talking. And then we go to chapter 2 and chapter 3, and you're telling stories. And so through 5 or 6 or 7 one-hour conversations, you have communicated all the information we need for your book, and you've done it in your voice. And that's really important to us. And then the writer takes it and they go out and then they apply their craft of taking your words and massaging them into your manuscript. And we send you a couple chapters at the beginning to say, hey, Ben, have we captured your voice, your tone, your message? Are you happy with how this is sounding? If the rest of your book is written like this, are you good? And as soon as you say yes, then we just write every chapter and send it to you for review. But we're just doing all of the work to make your voice come through the pages of your book. And then I have editors and proofreaders and designers and cover designers and publishing. And we do everything except the content because we're going to extract your genius through conversation. That makes sense?
Yep, absolutely.
He just called me a genius.
He did just call you a genius.
He got that. He got that. That's good. Dr. Ben, super genius.
That's the name of my book.
Let's don't get ahead of ourselves here, people.
I think I got a new nickname, Matt.
I knew that was coming. Let's just stick with the doctor afloat for now.
That's too good. Okay, that leads me to my next question, which is, okay, now I'm a broker. I've understood the process. Okay, I know it's going to take 5 or 6 hours. I know for sure that it's not just someone else putting words into my mouth. Now I look and I say,
it's not what are those ad libs or mad libs or whatever?
Yeah,
exactly. Like the sentence is written.
Add
Give me
an
a verb.
adjective.
Adjective here. No.
And so now I'm thinking, okay, you can attest to this a little bit. Okay, I've been a broker for 25 years. Now I'm a real estate broker. And I said, I've been a broker I'm thinking of Coley. Now I've owned my brokerage for 2 weeks. How does that book either level the playing field, or how is that different for someone who has just so much experience with Matt versus someone who's, man, I'm not even sure I can even answer all these questions over these 5 to 6 hours.
Yep, love it. Great. I'm going to give you an example in a different industry, but there's a lot of parallels. So personal injury law. Okay. I've got a client down in Florida, and he was the little David against 2 monster Goliaths. Okay. So think brand new real estate against 2 guys who've been in it 20, 30 years, right? Yep. The Goliaths in this case were spending $100,000 a month on marketing. And my little guy says, I can't get anywhere near that. I said, don't worry about it. Tell me your story. I said, why do you live in Florida? He went from the Northeast to Florida on a baseball scholarship. He was going to go to the pros as a pitcher. Second year in college, he threw his arm out. Had to get surgery, rehabilitation, killed his baseball career, killed his baseball scholarship. He pivoted, finished his degree, decided to become an attorney. I said, William, have you ever told anybody that story? And he said, no. I said, we're going to. So we took that story and we created his book. It's called When Life Throws You a Curveball. What to Do When You've Been Involved in a Serious Accident by William Franke.
Love it.
Baseball player turned attorney. Now, when William goes on his marketing, his TV shows, whatever, now I said, William, when you go out on the TV show in the morning, your morning show, I want you to wear your attorney outfit with a baseball glove. I want you to have a baseball in the glove. And I want you to talk to people and say, if life has thrown you a curveball, if you got hit by a car, bit by a dog, slipped at work, I understand. Life threw me a curveball and changed my life, but I'm here to help you, right? It's a story that helps him beat Goliath. And that's exactly what this young realtor guy who's only been in business a couple months, you have a story to tell that's going to be compelling to your audience, but you're not telling that story. That's what we do, is we help discover that story. It's deep within you. We'll help you tell that story. It'll bond your audience with you, and you'll gain clients. Yeah, that makes sense?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Man, I'm just thinking about your book. It would be like, when real estate roundhouse kicks you in the teeth. Yeah. Right? Matt has 900 black belts and all these different
markets.
Right.
There's a lot of other stories that we could send it around too, right? Some of them prison stories as an example.
Absolutely.
Some of that. But real estate itself, that's just, man, how many stories are in that? Without exaggeration, there are brokers listening to this right now that are going to absolutely just click with what I'm about to say. If I got paid a dime for every time a real estate agent or broker said, man, that's going in my book, That what just happened on that transaction's going in my book. Man, I'd have a lot of dimes because so much
Absolutely.
happens in real estate. What were you going to
Yeah,
say?
and it's all story based, right? Why do we go to movies? Because they're stories. Why are fiction books such great sellers? They're stories. Look at your marketing. It's not story based, probably. You're a bunch of facts and fiction, and who cares? I want a story that I'm going to remember and somebody I can connect with, and somebody who will just be real with me. You can do that in the pages of your book.
Yeah, that's so cool. What if movies were like PowerPoint presentations? Right.
I've been to a couple that pretty much were.
Yeah, Disney would be broke.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Matt, I have a question for you, right? Because we always try and take all this information, we tie it back into brokerage. Obviously, the brokers who are listening to our podcast, they want to grow their agent count.
Right.
They, of course, want to retain the agents that they have inside of their brokerage.
Mhm.
And of course, they want to increase the agent productivity inside of their brokerage. I'll let you pick one or all three, or you name it, and then we'll obviously tie Michael in however you would like. How would you use a book?
Yeah, so absolutely you could have 3 books, right? One for recruiting, one for retention, and one to grow per agent productivity.
Yep.
And I think what Michael said is absolutely spot on. There's some great books out there that are all tied together. They're the same people, the same characters in different phases of their life and the story. Man, that would be a great 3 books for a broker to do. One of them is when I got into real estate, how did I get into real estate? And how did I get up and running, right? That one would be about productivity, right? And then there would be one that, how did I make the decisions that allowed me to excel in my career? And then there would be another one that says, I finally achieved a certain level. Once I got to that level, I finally learned that real estate was about giving back. That's 3 completely different stories that could go in 3 different books. And depending on who you're having conversations with, you could apply. If you're good at actively listening to people, when you're asking questions, you could go, you wouldn't say it exactly like this, but for the sake of time, I'll say it like this. It's funny that you say that. That's exactly what I talk about. Let me give you a copy of my book, right? Something along that line. And yeah.
And you think about it, let's take that snippet, whether you're talking to somebody, whether you're posting on social media after a transaction or during a transaction. Oh, here's what just happened. We just sold this house, blah, blah, blah. I talk about this in chapter 3 of my book, blah, blah, blah. Get a free copy at my website here. If you or anybody you know is thinking about moving, that's like everybody on earth, I think.
Right.
Get a free copy of my book at my website.
Mhm.
And there's a whole strategy that we teach our clients of why we do it that way. But it gives people an easy next step. But I think you're right. You could easily wrap that up in 3 different books. But you talk about client retention. I was in real estate years ago. You guys didn't even know that. I was a realtor for a year and a half when I was like 19.
Right.
And nobody trained me. My training was, go. Here's your desk. There's your phone. Go. And hopefully it's different these days. But you find you have a training manual. You put it in a book. Talk about the culture of your book, of your family. We've got a Meyer grocery store here. And Fred Meyer started Meyer's years ago. And he wrote a book just talking about his background. Truett Cathy, Chick-fil-A, wrote a book about the Chick-fil-A way. You could write a book about your culture, who you are. You give that out to people buying and selling houses. That makes a big difference because now they know who you are. They trust you.
Yeah, that's so cool. I know that a lot of our listeners want to know who you are, Michael. And so I want to make sure that they absolutely can get connected with you. So if you don't mind, share with us a couple ways for them to obviously learn more about Paperback Expert. But how can they connect with you as well if they just want to meet a really cool guy?
Yeah. Hey, I appreciate that. Easiest thing, honestly, is .com. That is the hub of all things Michael. So on there, you can get a free copy of our newest book, The Profitable Book Formula. Okay, so it's a free download. You can get that. We've got a credibility calculator. We've got all kinds of free trainings and videos. You can also schedule a call with me. You can find me on social media, but paperbackexpert.com is the best place to find me.
I love that. We'll make sure that we put that not only in the links in the description below, but as you as we build your showcase page, it'll be linked in the buttons there as well.
Right.
Matt, do you have any more questions?
I do have something I want to say about that. The credibility. So I'm going to challenge all of the brokerpreneurs. If you're listening to this episode, go do the credibility calculator on his site. It gives you some really incredible insight about things, and it helps you understand the framework of how your story actually would benefit people. And so, Michael, it's a great tool. I absolutely love it. Everybody should go check that out. So,
thank you, man. I appreciate that.
That's super cool. Well, Michael, thanks for being on the show. We'll have to have you on in the future. Absolutely. This was absolutely a blast.
I would love it. Yeah, that'd be phenomenal. And between now and then, we'll work on your new title, Dr. Ben. See if we can get that superhero, super genius.
There's nothing to work on. You crazy, man.
Super
You
genius.
struck gold first try. Hey, guys, check out all of his links in the description below. Once you finish checking those out, scroll on down just a little bit further also and register for Brokerpreneur Not So Secret Society. It's this Friday and every Friday, 12 to 1 Eastern Standard Time. It's absolutely free for real estate brokers to attend. We'd love to see you there and talk about growing a real estate brokerage. Matt, we bring on amazing guests like Michael.
I got something else I got to say.
Every time.
So Ben's got a book series is what he's got. He'd have a book series. And the first one would be my first college degree. And then the second one would be my second college degree. And then the third one would be my third college degree, for however many college degrees he's got, because he's got a bunch of them before he hit his doctorate. So we could write a book with all of those different ones. How about that? And
Super
then we
genius.
could name it all of it. Super Genius, my first degree. Super Genius, my second degree. Right? That's right. Why am I seeing like Captain Underwear on the cover? That's what I'm saying. With the cape, with underwear, with it. No? That's not working. Okay, maybe that's not where we're going. I'm sorry.
Genius in the first degree. Well, Matt, we do this and everything else you do for one reason alone. Tell them what that is.
Man, we just want to be part of your win.
See you guys.
See you guys. Thanks, Michael.
No, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.